What we fear the most that resides in the depths of space has finally surfaced, and it's beyond what we could have ever expected. Astronauts and scientists have been working tirelessly to discover new phenomena and find explanations. Their curiosities and what they have seen is far beyond anything they could have ever possibly imagined. And in order to prove what they encountered, these scientists and astronauts took some pictures, and they're beyond chilling. Would you like to see them? Join us as we explore the top 20 space photos that will give you nightmares. Number 20. Black Hole Helix. This photo has to be one of the most puzzling pieces of footage we have gotten from the final frontier. Imagine you're an astronomer peering into a telescope to observe the stars in space only to discover this. That must be scary at first sight. When this footage was discovered, it was seen to come out of a black hole located in the center of the M87 galaxy, so a picture of it had to be taken instantly. This bizarre phenomenon had to be analyzed immediately because scientists had not seen it before at the time, so they literally had their hearts in their mouths while they tried to discover what it was. They eventually found it to be a galactic jet coming from the black hole. At least, that's what the scientists told us. But what if it was an invisible UFO which was just about to take off and blasted some flames from its engines? Who knows? Number 19. The tether that got cut. The major surprising thing about these scary space photos is that we have seen signs of them for a very long time, but we didn't pay enough attention until they revealed themselves to us. One of these moments where we encountered scary incidents in space was during the celebration of the 75th space mission done by the USA and Italy in 1996. To commemorate this special occasion, these two countries came together and sent an experimental tether into orbit. This was no ordinary celebration, but was also a scientific endeavor to find new sources of power. In fact, they were looking to see if they could harness solar wind and use them to power spacecraft. But as they began deploying the satellite, something snapped. It turned out to be that it was the umbilical tether that snapped, and that caused the oval-shaped equipment to drift off into the depths of space. While it floated, the camera attached to the equipment was still active, and this was where a weird occurrence took place. Bright white-like objects were seen surrounding the equipment, but the camera's performance couldn't make out what they were. NASA, on the other hand, decided to withdraw the footage and also refused to make any comments about what the objects that surrounded the experimental tether could be. To date, we don't know what these objects are, and the fact that NASA keeps leaving us in the dark is already scary enough. Number 18. Martian Sasquatch. Robotic vehicles, also known as rovers, have been sent by scientists over the years to explore other planets, and one of these planets is Mars. These rovers often take photos of the area they're in and then send them back to NASA to review. This was what happened when NASA was reviewing the rover's photos on a normal day, until something unusual was spotted in the photo. The photo taken by one of the rovers included something that cannot be ignored, as it grabbed the audience's attention instantly. This photo included a weird figure sitting on a rock like it was moving down the slope. Because it is a picture, we cannot specify if it was a statue or an actual life form living on the planet, but sizing it alone threw the entire public into a frenzy, especially alien enthusiasts and ufologists. Although it's nice to discover some life forms on the Martian planet, it's also scary as well to find out we have other living creatures outside of Earth. Hopefully they don't come and invade us for interfering in their business. Number 17. Men on the Moon. While rovers saw a Martian Sasquatch on Mars, something worse was discovered walking on the Moon. Yes, walking, and this is not an astronaut. When Google partnered with NASA in 2009, they came together to create what we know as Google Moon. Well, it's a wonderful innovation as we're able to observe our moon right from the comfort of our homes. But that just gave the people the liberty to snoop around and observe every nook and cranny of our lunar surface. Well, it wasn't long before someone discovered a very unusual figure walking on the moon. This was a very strange discovery made at the time, because at the time there was no astronaut on the moon, nor were there any rovers that were built like figures that could walk. So if none of these listed reasons are present, then what is? this unusual and lanky-looking figure doing on the moon? As usual, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration refused to make any comments about this discovery, and that is not comforting in any way. Yet, even if we are to jump to our own conclusions, are we going to call it a trick of the light or an object that was left by the astronauts that visited the moon on the Apollo missions? We can't say for sure, but this is one very scary space picture. Number 16. Floating vehicle on Mars. If the picture of a Martian Sasquatch we found on Mars that we talked about earlier wasn't convincing enough, then wait till you find out about the latest discovery made by the Mars Opportunity rover. This image was sent to Earth by the rover on the 17th of March 2017, and immediately after it was discovered, scientists studied the image. They saw a vast land filled with little rocks quite alright, but there was a particular object that caught their attention. This object was a shiny reflective metal found by the rover, and it looked like it was poking out from the ground. That was at least what the scientists thought in the first instance until they decided to take a closer look at the object. After observing this shiny reflective metal further, they saw that this was something they had never seen before. In order to study the image in finer detail, they did some dark shadowing around the image in order to study it to see if it was coming out of the ground or resting on the ground. It turned out to be that this shiny reflective object was doing none of the earlier listed options, but was floating. The object also had the perfect resemblance to an alien spacecraft. But some people are disputing this discovery, calling it a case of pareidolia. Do you think this is an actual alien spacecraft, or is it just a case of pareidolia? Let us know in the comments. Number 15. Jupiter's clouds. The solar system's largest planet holds some huge secrets we didn't discover fast, as the beautiful planet we have always admired for its size might be the deadliest of all planets. Different patterns have been seen on Jupiter, including the big red spot that has once been a mystery until NASA found out what it was. Well, now we have looked further into some of the planet's features, and we might not be able to go near the planet at all, not to talk of sending a rover down there to see if it is habitable for humans. NASA's Juno spacecraft passed by the planet and took some pictures of it. When scientists and astronomers observed it, they saw that Jupiter's clouds are more than what we think them to be. Based on the appearance of these clouds, NASA has seen that Jupiter has found constant storms at the North and South Pole. They also discovered that the planet has very powerful winds that even move the planet's magnetic fields around. Do you know how powerful that is? If a human happens to be on this planet with such powerful winds, that human skin would be blown off. Well, if you had adored this picture of Jupiter earlier, think again. Number 14. Standing stone. Sometimes scientists have had to collaborate with other experts in different fields just to get to the root of a certain phenomenon. One perfect example of this was when scientists tried to solve the mystery behind some mysterious structures found in some selected places on our planet, and one of these structures is Stonehenge. Stonehenge is one of the wonders of the world, and several theories have been made about it. Well, it turned out to be that a similar stone was discovered on Mars. That's right, at the Martian surface. It's a very funny discovery because experts here on Earth were still looking into every book and trying to do more research in order to get to the root of finding out why these stones are that huge and how they were created. And now, a similar structure was found on the Red Planet. This structure found on Mars was discovered in 2012 by an astronomer when he caught sight of the monolithic standing stone on the Martian surface. However, not everyone believed it at first till the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter confirmed the standing stone's presence as well. The standing stone is estimated to be over 5 meters in diameter. Another part that gave experts perfect conclusions about this standing stone was its straight rectangular sides. The sides of these standing stones in Mars were so straight and smooth, even a layman would know that this stone was made and not formed. Number 13. Thunder on the Moon. In 1972, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration sent a probe to orbit the Moon, and it caught the glimpse of something unusual. While NASA's probe was orbiting the Moon, they caught an unexpected flash of lightning within the dark shadow of the Stein crater. This flash of lightning occurring in space was not the problem, but where it came from was where the problem was. As a result, some people were beginning to postulate theories that the flash of lightning came from underneath the Moon, while others were saying that it came from above. These theories then gave birth to more conspiracy theories that kept talking about the possibility that there was an underground base buried in the crater. This theory sounded ideal though, because there was once news about the United States government building a base on the lunar surface until the plans were cancelled by President Eisenhower. Other explanations came forth saying that it's a lightning sprite that came from Earth. Number 12. Nukes. At this point, we might have to put more eyes on the federal government because a lot of things have been happening right under our noses. One example was the 2009 space mission that was executed by NASA. This was the Lacrosse mission that was aimed towards traveling to the moon, but people said it was more of a kamikaze mission. The reason why it was termed as a kamikaze mission was because once it was in orbit, the 2.2-ton payload rocket booster was directed at the moon for reasons best known to them. The rocket booster rammed into the Cabela's crater located close to the southern pole of the moon. When this happened, reasons came forth saying this kamikaze mission was done in order to discover if the moon craters could contain frozen water. Well, they turned out to be shocked. The images sent back from the mission showed a rectangular area in the crater's shadow. So was the kamikaze mission a lie all along? Was it an alien headquarters NASA blew up, or a foreign government research facility? Number 11. Light found on Mars. The discoveries we have seen so far on Mars are enough signs that there are life forms on this planet, but there is something NASA must be holding away from us. NASA's Curiosity Mars rover, the gift that keeps on giving, has been exploring Mars for years, but this different discovery that was made still baffles scientists to this day. This photo taken by the Curiosity rover showed a Martian beacon of light behind a dune on the landscape. We might have passed this off as a regular phenomenon, but the discovery got worse when we saw that this photo was taken by the right camera and not by the left. That happened due to a delay in the left camera turning on, but when the left camera eventually came on, the white beacon of light had vanished. NASA tried to debunk this bizarre occurrence by trying to name a reason for this white beacon of light, but an earlier photo that was taken in a different area of the landscape showed the same white beacon of light. Now what do we call that? Number 10. Strange craft seen in space. On April 16, 1972, astronauts on the Apollo 16 mission took off to space, and just after 3 days they made a terrifying discovery while in space. These 3 astronauts on board were still soaking in the feeling that came with being in space when they saw a weird silhouette around them. The 3 astronauts on the Apollo 16 mission saw a bizarre circular craft hovering in an area of space. This strange craft was hovering like a great dome structure, and while the astronauts were still surprised about seeing a weird craft in space, they managed to take a few pictures of it and even a video. Unfortunately, the video lasted only a few seconds, but it clearly showed the anonymous UFO as it hovered in space. Unfortunately, this footage taken by the astronauts suddenly vanished after they landed back on Earth. For over 30 years, nobody talked about the footage until it was discovered by a worker at Johnson Space Center who gave us the opportunity to access this footage today. And from our point of view, that definitely looks like a flying saucer, don't you think? Number 9. Pluto slug. We know you might be surprised wondering how a slug arrived on Pluto and checking to see if this is actually true, but it is. In January 2016, the Horizon probe was observing the X planet and simultaneously sending this obtained information back to Earth for scientists to study. As scientists received the information and began studying it, they noticed that the icy plains had some series of lines on its surface, so they set out to find what could have caused it. Well, scientists got their information quite all right, particularly when they discovered that the area in which the giant icy lanes were was an area on the X planet called the Sputnik Planum. This area is known and studied specifically because of the lines, and scientists believed that the reason why those lines are there is because it's breathing. That sounds very creepy, but in a way the scientists are correct. The planet is cooling down and heating up in a way, and as a result is moving around. Although we still believe that space slugs might be the reason for these icy lines. But hold on, how did a slug get on Pluto and survive the weather there? We can't say for sure. Number 8. Trees on Mars. When you examine the footage of this photo, you might think that you're staring at mold on bread, but this is in fact an area on Mars. It's an actual photo on Mars, but it's a bit creepy to observe from an aerial view, and even from a normal type of view. Although we can't relate this to the movie The Martian, where Matt Damon grew potatoes on Mars. Well, these trees we're examining look like some pine trees, so if we can't grow potatoes, we will be able to grow some pines. This image of the view on Mars is very bizarre, but it only happened due to one or two situations happening on the planet. Due to the evaporation of carbon dioxide frost, dark sand began to fall and slide down from the frosted side of the dune, and as a result made it seem like there is an actual tree existing on Mars. But no, it's not a tree, so we're good. Number 7. Face on Mars. In 1976, another footage of Mars was taken, and it seemed like it was going to break the entire world of humanity. This was the year that Mars was explored, and along the line, a face was discovered on Mars. Scientists and astronomers had thought they had already hit the jackpot, although they were scared at this discovery. It was discovered by NASA's Viking space mission, and when it made the discovery, scientists and astronomers have assumed that they have actually found aliens or other life forms living on other planets. Unfortunately, they saw only a hill which seemed to be a face. In a way, they must have been excited to make this discovery, but they would have been scared as well, because what if it turned out to be an actual alien? And based on the size of this supposed face, how big do you think this alien would have been? Thankfully, it was just an optical illusion. Number 6. Solar flares. Basically, our entire life revolves around the sun, but it can sometimes become what we do not expect. Although the sun is an essential and integral part of our lives, it still tends to show us a bit of a problem. Sometimes the sun seems like it has a mood swing and scares the entire final frontier with some lava. It also creates some sort of powerful magnetic field at the same time, which creates some sunspots larger than our entire planet Earth. Yes, the sun does this. Whenever this takes place, it creates a stream of radiation called the solar wind. Normally, solar winds are a beautiful thing to see, but looking at the northern lights is another beautiful phenomenon, which happens as a result of Earth's magnetic field reacting to the stream of radiation coming from the sun. Beautiful, quite alright, but still scary. Number 5. Gamma rays. To be very honest, gamma rays are quite scary, especially when it comes to the power they hold. Now, you might say that gamma rays and the uneventful situation that killed the dinosaurs were the same, but unfortunately they're not. When it comes to the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs, humanity's existence was still able to flourish millions of years after, but we cannot quite say the same about gamma rays when they occur. If a gamma ray hits Earth, that's it, we're gone, completely forgotten. Gamma rays happen when stars explode in faraway galaxies and then create gamma rays, neutrinos, and other things. Well, this photo of a gamma ray would definitely not be one we would like to see at this point, especially with how far civilization has come. Number 4. Total eclipse. This was an event that took place in December 2021, and it was a total eclipse everybody missed out on, except if you reside in Antarctica. This was a deep space image that was taken by the Deep Space Climate Observatory satellite, and it looks beyond scary if we're being honest. This photo was of a massive shadow of the moon as it slowly moves across the land. Looks like something that would start the intro of a horror movie. It's very haunting to look at. The next total eclipse that would happen would take place on the 8th of April 2024, which would affect places like the United States, Canada, and Mexico, so get your flashlights ready and don't be scared. Number 3. Veil Nebula. This has to be the weirdest and scariest photo taken by the Hubble Space Telescope. What you see here is a gas giant which comprises different layers of ionized gases. This is a cloud that is floating over 2,100 light-years away from our planet, and it is still a sight to see. Well, as fascinating as it looks, getting this photo proved quite a struggle, as the Veil Nebula stretches 130 light-years wide. This is 100 times bigger than our entire solar system. How scary is that? Number 2. Floating alone in space. Have you ever heard of Bruce McCandless? This man is an unforgettable icon when it comes to spacewalking and venturing in the final frontier. This is a picture of Bruce taken outside space during a spacewalk in 1984. Not only was Bruce outside the space shuttle, he was also untethered during the spacewalk. This means he had no means or guide that held him close to the Space Shuttle Challenger. Now, many might think that this is not scary, but just imagine floating in the void of space without any means of tether. Yes, now you get the bigger picture. Any slight miscalculation and Bruce would float away forever. Regardless, this is one great photo infused with a legendary achievement, and yet is still super scary. Number 1. Mars Eclipse. The Mars Curiosity rover has been doing most of the explorations on Mars, and they have continued to show us what life looks like on the Martian surface. Fortunately, the Curiosity rover has shown us more that life is on the Martian surface, and has even shown us what an eclipse on the planet looks like as well. These observations are known as transits from 2 moons known as Phobos and Deimos. Although it looks cool and takes the world of science further, it just remains strange to see that what an average person would not have necessarily thought about what would happen on another planet is what we get to see play out like a movie. Even though it makes sense and still seems perfectly logical, it is just very strange to see these phenomena take place even when we're not there. Which of these photos scared you the most? Let us know in the comments section below.